Hey everyone, I hate colors. I've been going through my entire life seeing beautiful saturated colors like green, purple, and blue and orange. It's stupid. No, I want to go back to before all these extra colors, back when there was only 2 colors. But black and white is too boring. Let's switch it up a little bit. How about red and black? Perfect. What was this video about again?
The Nintendo Virtual Boy, a console released in a weird era between the SNES and the N64. It was the 4th child of Nintendo, but might as well be the middle child considering the fact that it's very rarely talked about, and it's also the easiest form of what we now know as virtual reality. So it was an incredible stepping stone for gaming as a whole. But with all that said, how did this console fail so badly? Well, way back in 1985, yes, 40 years ago, a company in Massachusetts developed a red LED eyepiece display called a scanned linear array. Essentially, the eyepiece would just scan the area in front of the eye's field of view using mirrors that would vibrate very quickly, allowing you to see an image in 3D. Of course, unlike modern VR headsets, the eyepiece would only use one color of LED to show the virtual screen in the headset.
Now, all this seems really great and incredibly unique, and so the company behind the tech began reaching out to several buyers, like Mattel, Hasbro, Sony, and Sega. However, all of them declined the offer due to concerns over motion sickness. However, when Nintendo received the offer, they immediately took it for some strange reason, which was more than likely to try and just keep the tech away from Sega.
Yeah, so this tech isn't really the best, it's incredibly limited, no one wants it, and it has a major health concern. Who have you asked to buy it? Just Mattel, Hasbro, and Sega. We'll take it. Why? I foresaw it in a prophecy. So, with Nintendo now owning the tech, they gave it to their research department to begin working on a system to use it. Their general manager, Junpei Yokoi, responsible for designing the Game & Watch and Game Boy systems, personally saw it as a very unique technology that any competitor would struggle to replicate, should the system be successful. He also viewed it as a way to encourage gaming to become much more creative. And so, with the moderate success of the SNES, Nintendo quickly worked on a 64-bit console and the codename V32 after its 32 bits to release before the N64 if the console were to be delayed.
The team ended up working for about 4 years, experimenting with anything that they could do to try and make the V32 a little bit more health conscious. One of these experiments that made it all the way through to the final product was actually the 2-legged stand that the Virtual Boy ends up having.
Editing me coming in here real quick. So I actually found some of the patents that were used for the Virtual Boy during its early stages, and the progression of the leg mounts is actually insane. I'm showing them there on screen right now, but how did we get from neck mounted to 2 prongs on a table?
They also experimented with a bunch of different colors for LEDs, but eventually Junpei had the final say and decided to use red LEDs due to the fact that they're very easy to mass produce and incredibly cheap. Plus, the lack of any backlight on the V32 would create this unique sense of depth, according to Nintendo.
Wow, these reds are really red. As for why the V32, or now Virtual Boy, didn't have any more colors, it was because the RGB LCD system would have been very expensive and about double the release price. But given more time and development, the Virtual Boy would have had a much better display. However, that wasn't the case, as Nintendo had pushed back the N64's release and needed the Virtual Boy to fill the slot. So, Junpei reluctantly downscaled the Virtual Boy to be released within 1995 with a reduced price of $180, or about $400 in modern day, which is pretty good considering that the RGB LCDs would have made the console $500, or around $1,000 modern day.
But despite all the downgrading to get to the release deadline, the Virtual Boy was still a very unique concept. A concept that could lead directly into a future of gaming where all of it relied solely on virtual headsets. Surely, the Virtual Boy would become a major concept. Yeah, no one was gonna buy a console that had scoliosis as a gimmick.
Initial marketing for the console was really great as media outlets were given the first look at the system. However, all of its press left out a major concern: games. Plus, the price point of $180, again $400 today, was absurd to be spent on something so experimental, especially with the normal console coming shortly after. With a high price point and no announced games, no one had any reason to buy it when the system was released. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, why not subscribe? I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs before the end of 2025, so any bit of support helps. Anyway, July 21st, 1995, came with the launch of the Virtual Boy in 4 games: Red Alarm, Telerow Boxer, Galactic Pinball, and Mario Tennis as a pack-in title.
That's right, all you Mario sports fans, this is what you started with.
The few that bought the Virtual Boy on its release reported how uncomfortable the system felt to use, owed by its odd mounting system, as it required not only for the console to be at a perfect height, but also to be perfectly flat. Failure to do so would result in neck strain and other spine problems. Not to mention the odd color choice of red and black made the system very hard to look at for extended periods of time. It also wasn't as portable as buyers expected it to be, and wasn't multiplayer in any way compared to most other systems.
Of course, an obvious solution many found for the Virtual Boy was to just take it off of its stand and then tape it to your head, so that way you could move your head around a little bit easily. But this resulted in a lot more issues, such as eye strain, headaches, and color sense being completely taken away.
Even Nintendo didn't have full faith in the system, as it lacked many of its major brands like The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and Star Fox, which were all missing. The lack of Star Fox was especially strange, as previous tech demos had showcased an official version of a Star Fox game for the Virtual Boy. The Virtual Boy ended up receiving 22 games, 14 of which were only released in North America. Those 14 games were 3D Tetris, Galactic Pinball, Golf, Jack Bros, Mario Clash, Mario's Tennis, Nestor's Funky Bowling, Panic Bomber, probably the worst name imaginable, Red Alarm, Telerow Boxer, Vertical Force, Virtual Boy Wario Land, Virtual League Baseball, and Water World.
The system ended up only lasting 1 year on the market before being discontinued, partly to make way for the N64, and also to cover up Nintendo's biggest mistake. As a matter of fact, Nintendo actually went as far as to blame Junpei, the general manager of the project, for all of its faults, despite the fact that Nintendo didn't really do anything to help with the project in the first place. Actually, Nintendo ended up hindering a lot of the progress with the Virtual Boy by forcing them to downgrade it in order for it to be released in between the SNES and N64. Junpei later left Nintendo after developing the successful Game Boy Pocket.
However, despite all of the flaws of the Virtual Boy, it actually led to modern-day VR and some of Nintendo's own products, such as the 3D graphics on the 3DS and the VR support in the Nintendo Switch, and soon, probably the Nintendo Switch too. Plus, the introduction of Mario's Tennis allowed Nintendo to make Mario into a soccer icon, a Major League golfer, a basketballer, a baseball player, and a 6-time participant in every event in the Olympics. Mario is just the GOAT. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy.
Today, the Virtual Boy stands as a reminder of just how much a console can fail despite being so unique. The Virtual Boy ended up selling 770,000 units, only 1,400 of which were sold in the US and the rest being sold primarily in Japan. It was one of the biggest gaming failures in history, but it wasn't Nintendo's last. And if you want me to make a video talking about Nintendo's other biggest mistake in gaming, consider subscribing, and leave a comment about what you'd like to see me talk about next. I'm trying to reach about 1,000 subs before the end of 2025, so anything helps. I've been Seb, thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your week. Bye!